Let me turn my phone on vibrate.
Cicero to Kedzie and approaching the Ryan. It's 24 minutes from the Veterans Memorial Tollway. You stop the Lakeshore Drive out, but it's 21. Ryan's a little tight approaching downtown. It's 12 minutes from 95th. I-57, 11 minutes.
How did Saturday go?
410. That's traffic. I'm Alamonte.
Reverend?
With which piece?
The Saturday morning forum?
I'm not sure where he is now, but I know you can find him.
Still some equipment and technical glitches. So they got this. When you go from lying dormant for 19 months to trying to pull it right back out of the hat, that's not turning on the dime, but we'll get there.
But they should have been working towards that.
$200 a month.
You know, because live TV is very hard. Excuse me, one moment. In fact, people don't do live TV.
Policy for you, even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high.
All right, 60 seconds.
Term providers help thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life
It's just
insurance.
extraordinarily hard to do.
Affordable term life for you.
So it's just not something.
Is called Big Lou at 800.
And the most experienced people
Lou will make sure the scales
have a hard time doing it.
Call 800-590-7516.
There's that.
Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you.
Okay.
He's on meds
Everybody,
too.
hey.
Call
Happy Monday.
800-590-7516.
Got a lot to talk about today.
Because facts matter. You're listening to CP 820. Eric Grant invites you to the family meeting every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. for conversation.
10 seconds.
Okay, wonderful.
And you never know who's going to drop by.
Good morning from LA, Carol.
Chicago's
And Monique and Francis and Linda.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Determined, unstoppable, achieving the impossible. We're standing tall with our heads held high. We are victorious.
Yes, we are, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you on Monday, October 18th. We are in the throes of fall, and it feels beautiful. It feels beautiful. I'm Santita Jackson. This is the Santita Jackson Show, coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820 here in Chicago, AM 950 radio. My brothers and sisters to the north in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all of you from all around the world who are meeting my morning stars here. And everybody, please go on over to YouTube. Diane Gibson down there in Texas, sending you much love, my sister. Everybody, when you can, go on over to the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube. We're trying to build up the numbers there, and you are helping us to make that happen. I want to thank you for that. Francis and Carol from the left coast, and Monique and Linda and Dave from up there up north in, I was about to say Colorado, not quite. Actually, you're in Canada. Raphael down there in Brazil, sending you much love, everybody. Please head on over to the YouTube page, the Santita Jackson Show page. Joyce and everybody. Boy, we got a full plate today. We're going to be talking about Ahmaud Arbery. Going to get an update on that from C.K. Hoffler before she goes on Court TV. And then, did you know that our former mayor in Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, is going to come up for a vote? He's supposed to get at least he's up for the prestigious ambassadorial post to Japan, one of the most prestigious diplomatic posts that exist. And guess what? The confirmation hearing is going to be on the 7th anniversary of the murder of Laquan Mcdonald. How did that happen? And it is known, and no one has thought to move it. So we want to talk with you about that. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. And we'll look at the evolution of Mayor Emanuel and how he has gone from really essentially being run out of office to becoming a pundit. He's got a lot of support, corporate support, that's Republican and Democrat, and we need to talk about that. I keep telling you all, the nature of power is not partisan, it's power. Okay? Corporatists are Republican and Democrat, independent, libertarian, and everything. What we're trying to do is push back against corporatism so that populism, so that the people can win. Think about that, everybody. And then we have some questions about COVID-19 and many other illnesses that are out here, viruses and things like that. We're going to be talking with Dr. Deborah Furholden, and then we're going to bring on Dr. Shanita Knighton to talk about that, different vaccines that you might need, and other issues you need to be looking for. We're so busy looking for COVID-19, and we should, that we're missing a lot of other illnesses that can really prove to be quite challenging for us. So we're going to be talking about that. But right now, let us get to some of these headlines before we get to the good news with the Reverend Dr. Todd Geary. In Chicago, it's going to be a beautiful day, 70 degrees and sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 75 degrees and sunny. And guess what, everybody? We have new WNBA champions. I just had to put that first. I'm sorry, I had to do it. That's right, the Chicago Sky, seeded number 6. Well, they came on through, everybody. I know my father took my nephews to the game. My nieces are away in school right now. They're all away in college. But the great thing is they got a chance to see these young women really just excel at the highest level in basketball. And we thank you, WNBA Sky, for this championship that you have delivered to Chicago against the Phoenix Mercury, who really put up, it was just a great series. It was a great series, and everybody showed up. You know, our mayor, Lori Lightfoot, is a former basketball player. So everybody was out there. Everybody was great, and you know what? We are so proud of them. It's the second WNBA title for Candace Parker, but this is our time to shine here in Chicago. That's right, Chicago rallies to become WNBA champions. Congratulations, Chicago Sky. And then the rest of the sports, well, guess what? The Bears, well, they fell to the Packers. You know, this is our big rivalry. Packers 24, the Bears 14. And the Vikings, well, they were triumphant over the Panthers 34-28. A few of these headlines. Supply chain issues that have led to empty shelves, rising prices, and consumer frustration could continue well into 2022, according to the CNN report. That's the prediction of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who said Sunday that some of these troubles could be alleviated if Congress passes President Biden's infrastructure proposal. These issues have huge political implications for President Biden, and we're seeing it played out in state races, notably in the next couple of weeks, the gubernatorial race in Virginia, which we will also continue to follow. Democrats are still trying to figure out how to bring home this $3.5 trillion bill. They're trying to figure out how to cut it down, but what should be cut? Should the child care tax credit be cut? Should 2 years free community college, should that be cut? What do you think should be cut? You know, this was already cut from $6 trillion. Think about that, everybody. The U.S. is now averaging about 85,000 new COVID-19 infections a day, which is down more than 8,000 from the week before. That's good news. COVID-19 deaths are also down. This could be an optimistic sign if the U.S. manages to avoid a seasonal spike. We will see what is going to happen. In the meantime, Dr. Fauci is urging police officers to get vaccinated as union protests are continuing to heat up all across the country. So what do you think is going to happen there, everybody? Because a huge chunk of police officers are refusing to get the shots. And are they going to be laid off? This is happening in all industries. In all industries all across the country. And so what's going to see, how is that going to happen? Now we're seeing gang abductions in Haiti. Wow. A notorious Haitian gang known for brazen kidnappings and known for not ransoming off people individually. They ransom people off as a group. They were accused by police on Sunday of abducting 17 missionaries from a U.S.-based organization. 5 children were believed to be among the kidnapped. We'll continue to look at that story. And then Ahmaud Arbery's killing, which changed this racial conversation in the United States, along with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Well, now we will see the murder trial begin to commence. They are going to impanel the jury, begin that today. And we're going to be talking with Attorney C.K. Hoffler, who will be commenting on Court TV about that. We'll be talking with her about that today to see where that is going to go. In the meantime, we've got the senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church, the iconic church in in Baltimore, Maryland. He's also Senior Vice President of Rainbow Push. It's great to be with you today. Pastor Todd Yeary, we need some good news. Give us something that's going to keep us moving.
Well, good morning, Santita, and to all of your listeners on a Monday morning making their way to work. Some may be finishing their shifts and on the way home, but whatever that situation is, this is Monday. It's fall. The morning air is brisk, and it's a reminder that we're alive. So I hope you're well and recovering from a very busy weekend.
Thank you.
And congratulations to the Chicago Sky on winning the Wnba Championship. That's excitement because the other fall teams seem to be disappointing us. So we'll just ride with the Sky.
Hey,
with the champions.
Keep your head to the sky. How about that?
And
Yes.
there you go. See that right there? That's how you get started. So I hope everybody is certainly well. Well, let's get to it. Good morning, Chicago. Good morning, Twin Cities. Come on, get up, get up, get up. Time to put your feet on the floor. Time to get moving. Time to get engaged. Your purpose is out there, and your destiny is awaiting you. So don't push the snooze. Let's get going, because this is the day that you have been waiting for. Time to go make some things happen. So take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and appreciate that you're alive, and then get that morning beverage going. Know that your morning tea, that morning cup of joe, that orange juice, that water, yes, water, it will do you some good. Hopefully you are ready for a great day. You know, Santita, I was thinking about how in the course of life, sometimes things happen that we don't anticipate. And in the age of COVID, with our reliance on technology to do so much of what we used to take for granted, the way we communicate, the way we navigate, the way we make sure we have our resources, that sometimes in dealing with technology, it's kind of like life. Things happen unexpectedly. Technology is good, but it's not perfect. And so is life. Life is good, but it's not always perfect. And so the question that often comes up is when the things that we rely on most heavily, or the things that we expect to go a certain way, don't go that way, what do you do? I want to talk to you this morning about how to handle life when things happen in life that are unexpected. Because on today, as you're going about doing what you do, which is changing the world, because that's how you were created, something may come up along the way that kind of catches you off guard and throws you off. And in those moments, we often ask the question, when unexpected things happen to us, where is God? What is God doing when we hear news that is not so good? Some of it is even just downright bad. And it's a question that must be considered if we're going to lead lives that rise above the level of malaise, of mediocrity, and the humdrum. So we live in an age that's so technologically advanced that we don't have to contend with many of the challenges generations before us had to. We can send messages around the world. We can travel from the Earth to the outer ring. We have new astronauts going up at 90 years old. Hey, Captain Kirk. But when things don't go our way, what about God? Sometimes life is more simple or complicated depending on your point of view. But when things happen that we don't anticipate, remember that God did not necessarily create us to lead simple lives. He calls us to lead full lives. And when it comes to leading full lives, that means we have to take the things that we expect and the things that we don't and use them to our advantage. So here's what I want you to consider. Ask this question. Are you living life to the fullest, or are you focused on the things that aren't going well, that you're missing the opportunity to bounce back from your setback? Here's what we have to do. When we face challenging times, we have to remember we have been created by God, who specializes in creating in us what we need to deal with the challenges that confront us. And so I need you to celebrate this fact today. As you get up and you get to work and you go about your day, you have been created with an inner sense of resilience. You have the ability to rise from the difficulties that are trying to knock you down and keep you down. You can rise above circumstances, unexpected confrontations, rise above your problems, rise above your disappointments, overcome your fears. You can challenge your doubts. You can overcome your shame, and you can even get back on track in spite of the disappointment. You can, because God has given us the gift of life. With all that's going on, don't let the difficulties, the unexpected issues cause you to back down. Let these challenges that you might face cause you to step up. So go ahead, live life to the fullest in spite of the unexpected. Enjoy life for what life will offer you today, and appreciate that in life you may get some lessons that you did not anticipate, but they're going to make you better. So don't get better. Don't get bitter, rather. And so expect life to be real good today, because God created you, and God is a good God today. So go ahead and make it happen. I'm excited for you. You're a champion. Now go change the world. Thanks, Santita.
Amen to that. Pastor Todd Geary, Senior Pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church. Just keep it moving. It's a new day. It's a new day, everybody. Whatever your religious commitment, or even if you don't have one at all, just take these words and have a great day. This is a new opportunity. It indeed is a new day. It is a new day. It is a new day. Love Pastor Todd Geary. We have got Dr. Deborah Furr Holden, our own personal health guru and expert. She, of course, is the epidemiologist coming out of Johns Hopkins University, and she's the Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University, helping to create that School of Public Health at their medical school. We're so excited that we have access to her and get great information every day. And thank you for bringing Dr. Shanita Knighton our way. People love hearing from you all. You're helping us to understand, Dr. Furr Holden, what we need to be looking for in terms of policy. Particularly as we move into, as we make our way through the system, and as we move into this new election season, because now we're seeing that a big part of the $3.5 trillion Build Back Better human infrastructure bill had to do with our health. Medical, with Medicare, they wanted visual coverage and dental coverage and hearing coverage. Why do you think that would be important, Dr. Deborah Furr Holden, to have your dental coverage, your visual coverage, and your hearing coverage covered in Medicare?
No, that's a really great question. I know what it feels like, even as somebody who's employed and has pretty good health insurance, to not have good dental insurance. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff is offered by different providers, and oftentimes people's health, you can tell about people's health through their teeth. So a lot of people don't know that the same arteries and plaques that form around the heart are the same plaques that form in your mouth. So having plaque build up in your mouth is a signal that you may have plaque build up around your heart. The body is connected in these really dynamic ways, and it's important that we not just treat one, and people have access to care for one aspect of their physical health, but that they have access to care for all of their health: physical, social, emotional, dental, visual, all of those things. I remember when mental health was not included. That was one of the things that President Obama did, was added parity to healthcare, and said we've got to cover with Medicaid and Medicare some of the very basic things that we cover with private insurance. So I think this is a real step in the right direction.
What do you think, because they're really finding Joe Manchin, and this is not just to call him out. It is and it isn't. I think there is an insensitivity to, you don't really think about your dental care until your teeth hurt, right? And I don't think that I don't think enough of us, I should say, understand how profoundly important our dental care and our dental health is. When you talk about plaque in your mouth, in your teeth, and how that connects to the heart. Many of us don't know that, Dr. Furr Holden.
Yeah.
So, and our visual health, it seems so basic, but that is something that they're fighting to keep in that bill. What are if that is removed, what does that say to you? Because you're working, you are inside of the medical school at Michigan State University. You're building a school of public health. How could that be a public health issue for your visual, your dental, your hearing covered, for you not to have those aspects of your health covered in Medicare?
Well, inequity costs us. It costs everybody. People don't realize that. But when people, the people's needs don't change as a function of whether or not they have insurance. Just their ability to meet those needs change. And what happens is when people don't have insurance, oftentimes people do for the episodic healthcare management. They wait until there's a problem. And typically problem-based healthcare is a lot more expensive than prevention-based healthcare. And then people don't oftentimes have the ability to then pay those bills, especially if you're uninsured. But if it's an emergency, then there are some requirements around what medical providers have to do to stabilize you. And then who gets stuck with that bill? The providers. And then the providers pass that on to us, and insurance companies pass that on to us by way of increased premiums, by way of increased cost for care, and things like that. It costs everybody for people to not have their basic health care needs met. We might not pay right this moment out of pocket, but over time, we all end up bearing the brunt of that problem.
Well, now, Joyce Anderson, I think you need to emphasize this. Joyce Anderson said, OMG, that was powerful. How dental care is connected to overall health. That was one of the first stories I did when I started in radio. 14 years ago? Because my grandmother, God rest her soul, my grandmother Gertrude was a real, she was almost a zealot about dental health, about your overall health. But, when she was 91 when she died with all of her teeth, and they were in excellent condition. She was constantly flossing. She brushed more than once a day, Dr. Deb. She was doing the most. I'm not going to talk about my grandmama today. But she was on top of that when I was a little girl a long time ago. Why don't you speak to Joyce? Because I think you kind of threw her off when you talked about our dental health and how important it is to our overall health and how it is a harbinger of what's going on inside of our bodies.
Yeah, so say that one more time. I have a terrible feedback in my ears.
Oh, we're going to work on that during the break. Well, Joyce Anderson was taken aback in a good way. She said, OMG, that was powerful, how dental care is connected to overall health. I don't think a lot of people really know that. You even said, that's a good question. I mean, I got a couple of minutes. Talk to us about that, because I think that if we know that, then we might even go for dental cleanings. We might go get our teeth examined. We might not be as, I lost a tooth. Well, what else is going on with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because when you realize how all of these things are potentially related, right? And then you say, man, it gives you extra skin in the game for your cardiovascular health to understand that it might be linked to your oral health. This is the kind of health literacy, health information we want to get out, not to scare people, but to empower people. I know going to the dentist, for example, can be very, very scary. I have my life organized in what I call 3 categories. Things that I'm going to do now, and these are all the things that I ever say matter. It's only the things that I say matter. Things I'm going to take on right now, things I'm going to take on but not now, and things I'm going to take on not ever. It's important, man. I talk about it, but I'm never dealing with that, right? And literally at some point in my life, going to the dentist was on that list. I had been so traumatized going to the dentist, and it was so stressful for me. I just said, I'm not ever going back to the dentist. I don't have to. Why? Because I bought a whole tooth cleaning kit and was cleaning my teeth at home every 3 months. Are you
serious?
Whole deal. I'm not kidding you. But see, when you make a choice like that, that's what you have to do. When you say, I'm not ever going to the dentist, I started cleaning my teeth at home. Now, mind you, I don't recommend this for people. That's not the point of what I'm saying. But at some point, I saw a picture. It was actually a video of myself on a fishing trip with my son. It was his first fishing trip.
About 20 seconds.
And short version, I didn't like the way my teeth looked. And so I had to go from not ever going to the dentist to now I was going to go to the dentist. The hurdle that I had to get over and the anxiety that it caused me, it was a lot. I can understand that for people. But those are the types of things that people have to be able to navigate. They have to be able to, manage their health.
Absolutely.
They have to understand what the risks are. And then when they make those choices, they got to have all the resources in place to be able to follow that through. I was able to see a special type of dentist that uses special type of numbing agents and all this other stuff.
Absolutely.
It was just amazing.
And they do that now. It doesn't have to hurt. And it should not have to cost you a mortgage payment. I'm back with more in just a minute. I'll go talk with Dr. Deborah Holden and Dr. Shanina Knighton about what's going around COVID-19, RSV, strep throat, hand, foot, and mouth. There's a lot else going on than COVID, everybody. Back with the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Dr. Deb, I'm sorry, I was moving toward that break.
Okay.
How are you doing? We're on Facebook Live.
I got that first flu shot. And that thing, I was like, it's so strange because I didn't have any issues when I got my COVID vaccine, shot 1 or 2. I got a Tdap shot. That knocked me down. And then the flu shot knocked me down, only for 24 hours. But it was rough. It was a trip. I didn't expect that. Yeah, I'm doing much better now. Yeah. But yeah,
I was concerned about you. I was concerned. Yeah. I said, well, because I think also
sending Dr. Knighton through.
Thank you. I think that as we get older, we react to things differently. I mean, I'm finding there's some foods that I just don't do well, Dr. Deb. I mean, really, I've had a hard time getting some foods down lately. I said, oops, I think I'm going to have to make my diet a lot less complicated than it has been, because I'm like, whew. I was on my way to the airport yesterday, and I told my friend, I was like, hey, you know what? And the airport's not that far from where we were leaving. We had gone over to watch a football game, and I told him, I said, you know what? I think we're gonna have to pull over. I thought I was going to be ill on the side of the road. I just eaten this meal. And that's happened to me several times, but it's like a lot of sauces and things like that. I'm just not doing that well now. But, my mother said, hey, because I'm fortunate enough to have my mother who remembers her mother, and she remembers some things about my father's mother. And, that's because you need to track. That's when knowing your family is important, because trust me, there's some things that I do, like my father's mother used to wear a bonnet to bed. I need to do that now. My mother said, your grandmother did that. I said, she sure did. She said, yeah, and she did it to stay warm, and I do it to stay warm. She said, check that. So it's a lot of little stuff. We've got your beloved mentee, Dr. Shanina Knighton, with us, Dr. Deb.
Good morning, Dr. Knighton.
Now, let me tell you this. Dr. Deborah Holden is working not just on vaccine equity, but on health equity. Everybody, equity is her thing. And one of the things that Dr. Knighton and I are going to be working with her on is just understanding our overall health, understanding the vaccines that you need as adults. But one of the things I've listened to you, Dr. Deborah Holden, and I got this, Dr. Knighton and I do. Although I'm not on Dr. Knighton's level at all. But you kept saying, look, we're looking at COVID, but you need to look at other things. Like we were just talking about your dental health.
60 seconds.
There's so many other viruses and illnesses that are going around, as they say, that we're not paying attention to, Dr. Deborah Holden. But, if you don't, and so we I said, well, she sent the article, and I said, okay, we'll talk about that, because Dr. Holden has been trying to caution us to look at all of these things. We listen to you, Dr. Deb. Just want you to know we listen. Hey, everybody, Nicole and Carol and everybody, if you can, go over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We're trying to get those numbers up, and I want to thank you all for giving us a nice jump last month. But if you can, please do that today. A King down there in Memphis. Love Memphis. Hello. I used to have so much fun down there. Renee. Hey.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Determined, unstoppable, achieving the impossible. We're standing tall with our heads held high. We are victorious.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. At the top of the hour, we're going to be talking about former Mayor Rahm Emanuel. He is up for an ambassadorial post, one of the choicest ambassadorial posts to Japan. They're going to hold his confirmation hearing on the 7th anniversary of the killing of Laquan Mcdonald. What do you think about that? Oh, you can't make this stuff up, everybody. We've got Dr. Deborah Holden, who really leads the health segment on the Santita Jackson Show, and I'm so glad that she's brought into our midst Dr. Shanina Knighton, an infection preventionist, research clinical scholar at Case Western Reserve University, a registered nurse. And Dr. Deborah Holden has really been pushing for equity in terms of our health and looking at, what we can do in this pandemic. Indeed, we've got some good news, Dr. Holden. The U.S. is now averaging, according to the CNN report, about 85,000 new COVID-19 infections a day, down by more than 8,000 from the week before, which is great news. And COVID-19 deaths are also down. But you've been warning us about other seasonal illnesses that we need to look out for. What do you mean? Should we be happy about this news that the average number of infections has gone down, that deaths have gone down? Is that good news? And why should we still be cautious about seasonal illnesses, Dr. Deb?
Well, I want to just be clear. We're talking about a national trend.
Mm-hmm.
That trend does not hold up in all 50 states. It doesn't hold up in Michigan. In Michigan and in my county, our numbers are increasing. And they've been pretty high, and they've kind of stayed stably high. We had a little slight dip the week of September 29th. It was very, very negligible. And then it started going right back up. So if you take that 1 week out, I believe we are on 15 weeks of consecutive increase in my county, and that's a very similar trend for Michigan.
Well, hold on one second. Why is that important?
Yeah.
Because this is a CNN report. They're telling us, okay, and that's what I heard this morning on the news. The good news is that the rates are down, but you're telling me, in these different states, I'm hearing a different story.
Yeah, that varies. And don't get me wrong, that is the overall trend. But the mean or the average is a funny thing. You can get to an average multiple ways. You can have half of the population have 100% of something, and the other half of the population have 0. Yeah. And then you have 50% as an average. But there'll be nobody in the population who actually fits the mean. Nobody who's at a 50. You just got half the people at a 0 and half at 100. So the average for the population is 50, but nobody is at 50, right? So you have to be careful when you look at these numbers, because it might give people a false sense of security or thinking that things are getting better, when in fact things are getting better, but only in certain places or for certain people. Or the difference is what we call a non-statistically significant difference. Right? So if I say, I lost, I just started this eating plan, I lost a pound last week. Most people who know anything about weight loss will smile and congratulate me and will say that's probably water weight that she lost.
Yes.
Right? Like when you talk about weight loss, we're looking for, sustained weight loss, consistent and reliable over time. And a pound or two, we know that can vary for a woman just based on if she has her menses or not and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it's just when I hear these numbers, and we had talked about on the show a few weeks ago about this lower number of deaths at this point compared to last year, but the difference was like less than 1,000 or right around 1,000 deaths. And when you're talking about on a number that's several 100,000, that difference sometimes can be due just to chance, not actual progress. And so that's all I'm telling people. I'm not saying that they aren't turning the tides in some places, but realize that's an average for the whole nation. It's not happening that way in all states and within all communities. That's why I always tell people you need a good local trusted source of information. Mm-hmm. And most health departments by now have some type of data dashboard set up on their, county and local municipal health department sites where people should be able to map and track what is happening in my community. That's what's really important. Your exposure for most people will come from inside of their own family, inside of their own workplace, inside of their own community. So the national trends, it gives us a bird's eye view, but what's really important is what is happening in my backyard. So that's what I encourage people to do. Stay abreast of your local county and municipal statistics on COVID cases.
Which is the perfect cue to you, Dr. Shanita Knighton, infection preventionist. I mean, as you sent me this article to remind me that fully vaccinated people who get COVID-19 breakthrough infections can transmit the virus. You said that's important for us to remember. And it's also important for us to remember, you said, what's going around. I've heard you and Dr. Verholden talk about, she just said COVID-19. It's still an issue. But RSV, strep throat, hand, foot, and mouth. I used to get strep throat all the time. Very, very painful. It's just, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Bronchiolitis? I mean, what is going around still? Is this seasonal? What should we be watching out for? Because I think that if we feel a little tickle, we all think it might be COVID-19, and you're saying that's not true.
It's not. I think the other important piece that you just pointed out, and this is just for our listeners, is that you pointed out a lot of infections or conditions that are all respiratory related, which is very common during this time of year. However, we had the false perception last year because maybe flu wasn't tracked as well. And so there was literally media coming out and saying that flu was eradicated because of COVID-19. There wasn't attention paid to RSV and some other respiratory conditions. And so now that things are starting to get back on track and we are paying attention, we are seeing an increase in some of these cases. And we started to see that as early as June, even while it was warm outside. And so we were starting to see those indicators as having increased cases then you can only imagine what we're up for now that the weather is starting to get colder. We're also talking about seasonal allergies as well. Many people always think about spring, but there is a such thing as fall allergies from the mold that may come off of the leaves as they continue to fall and, get wet. So you have allergies in that regard. You still have the fact that more people are going to be dwelling indoors. And typically just with the season change, that means more sniffles, more runny nose. And so it does present us with the capability to be able to transmit more respiratory droplets. And so I just remind people that the only respiratory droplets that are contagious and infections are not infectious is not just COVID-19. There are others. Right now, if you can imagine, even with a lot of the daycares, they're having a lot of sicknesses and illnesses amongst the kids. And we have to remember, we may have not seen some of these numbers last year because we had a lot of daycares closed. A lot of them were not able to function at full capacity. Well, now that schools and daycares and things are back at full capacities, workplaces are back at full capacities, and people have returned, we're starting to see some of these things really pop up and really, take over because there has been such a comfortability with people being vaccinated that they do not believe that they should still be practicing preventative measures. And I have to remind them that the COVID-19 vaccine is not God in regards to it will not protect you against other respiratory illnesses. So the same preventative measures that I continue to preach about COVID, that I was preaching before COVID, even a decade ago, is still things that we still need to be doing now.
Well, Marquiette Criswell has a question for you, Dr. Knighton. She said masks and hand washing will fight against all viral illnesses. Is that correct?
If the mask is used correctly and if you are washing your hands correctly, statistics show that only 3 to 6% of people clean their hands correctly. So if you are not getting where the thumb meets the hand, if you're only sprinkling your hands up under some water, and
Wait,
think
did you say sprinkling?
it's true. I know we've all seen it. I know we've all walked into a restroom and the water automatically come on real quick, and they hurry up, put their hands up under there, and then shake them off and go get a paper towel and dry, and then they on about their business. But so I'm seriously emphasizing, like, it has to be done correctly. And not only just with washing and using hand sanitizer, but your hands must be dry correctly. Wet hands can pick up germs. So not only is the washing correctly, drying is just as important. And then when we're talking about
hold on one second. I have a question about drying. Is the air drying more hygienic, or should you use the paper towels in the public restrooms?
So for me personally, I'm against the dryers even being in the public restrooms, because I've checked the CO2 levels, and when I say CO2 levels, that means like the inability for air to like change and like move around in small bathrooms. It's not good. So if you can imagine just in a restaurant where there's stalls, a lot of stalls and no air exchange, the dryers are just now being spreading more droplets around. And a lot of these restrooms don't have the mechanism of not having a door. They have doors, which means that they're closed in. And so I personally do not agree with dryers being in restrooms, because I believe that they spread droplets around in the air. So if it were up to me and you had the option to dry your hands, you would dry your hands using paper towels. And I would also recommend using the method that we use in healthcare, and that is making sure that you are drying your hand from the least dirty to the most dirty. What that means is you go from your fingertips and you dry upwards in an upward motion. You wipe like just straight up on both sides of the hands and in between the fingers, opposed to drying your hands like balling up a sheet of paper, because your wrist area and your arms may not be clean, and you don't clean them as well as you clean your hands. So you will want to dry upwards to make sure that any germs that are on your wrist or your forearms, you're not getting them back on your hand and your paper towel.
What do you do when they only have the air dryer? Because my mother told me she didn't feel comfortable with air dryer. My mother, come on. Moms are doctors. She said, I don't feel good about this.
I would recommend, if you don't have paper towels of your own, then you have to use them, because your hands should be dry. So you do have to use them. I would just make sure that as you're drying your hands, that you are not, I would say, how can I describe it? Because it depends on the type of hand dryer. If you're talking about one of the hand dryers where your face is like, let's say you have to stand in your hands, the dryer is beneath your, like, let's say around your waist, right? Which means that the air that's drying is then coming up. So it's going to come up. I would just make sure that you're like looking away and not in that direct pathway of the droplets that are going to come out of that dryer. Or if your hands are up under the dryer and you're drying your hand, then it would still be the same mechanism. I wouldn't just be looking straight forward, because it's those droplets again from your hands. Even though they are assumed to be clean the majority of the time, you still don't want them coming back in your face.
Well, when this article, what's going around, COVID-19, RSV, all of these respiratory illnesses, I'd like to ask you, and then also ask Dr. Deborah Holden, what is going around? I know when I was in high school, I used to get strep throat a lot, like twice a year. Not fun. What should we be looking out for? Because right now, our default illness is COVID-19. We think that everything is COVID-19, and you're saying that that's not true. Dr. Knighton?
I'm not. Yes. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
So that's the thing. Nothing has stopped. And I'm saying that to say, meaning like when we talk about COVID, when we talk about flu, cold, and allergies, none of these things have stopped. It's just that we have paid attention to one more than the other. And it's been because some of the symptoms, are reflective. Meaning, for example, with COVID, the difference between COVID-19 and the flu that we know is the loss of taste and smell, the difficulty breathing, and a dry cough. When we're talking about a cold differs from a flu because you don't have the fever. But you still may have the aches and pains. You still may have a sore throat, sneezing. So it's like maybe one or two more symptoms that's added. When we're talking about allergies, you know, you might have the red and itchy eyes. You may have the tickle in the throat, the sneezing, and a runny nose. So the thing is, some of these things look very similar to each other, but there might be that one classic sign or symptom that makes them different from each other. So my thing is this: stay ready so you don't have to get ready in terms of having to decipher between them. Now, our body's normal mechanism, as of course the seasons are changing, if, you know, we're eating things that may, like, let's say, increase mucus, we're going to be, you know, our body's natural mechanism is to want to get rid of that inflammation and get rid of that mucus, like it's known, you know. So it's like we just have to be conscious that whether our body is fighting for us or if we are sick, it's staying ready so we don't have to get ready. And that's where that emphasis comes of making sure that, you know, you're getting your vitamin C, making sure that you're exercising, keeping stress levels low, making sure that you are, you know, taking foods and consuming things that are going to boost your immune system. And if you have that tickle in your throat or you feeling like you're starting to come down with the cold, then that would mean at that time it would be wise for you to eat what Dr. Deb, you know, mentions all the time, which is a nutrient-dense diet and the foods that don't have the labels on it or have the expiration date. Pretty much you look at them and you see when they go bad. So these are things to just consider when you feel like you're getting ready to come upon a cold or if you are ill.
Dr. Deb, you know, I'm so glad that you brought Dr. Knighton into our presence because these are things that you said that we need to be looking at, but we're not looking at them. What about little children? You've just become a grandma, a glamma, as everyone calls you here. And I'm thinking about all of our children who are in preschool, who are in kindergarten, who are in grammar school. Is there any mandate, if you will, that should be put in place on safety, on teaching safety to our children? I mean, are there people who are in the classrooms or are teachers undergoing any training so that they can help their children not become spreaders or just to be healthy themselves? I mean, how should we handle the children, Dr. Deb?
That's a good question because, you know, like Dr. Knighton said, and I was waiting with bated breath, by the way, to hear the answer to the paper towel or hand dryer.
Me too.
Question.
Girl, me too. I was like, what?
Yeah. Right. The reality is most of us just simply, you know, don't know. And so one of the things I think we've learned during this pandemic is that, you know, people not knowing has consequences. You know, people not knowing, people not understanding and not masking properly. I know I talked to people who were just so upset and confused. They're like, how did I get this? I left the house one time. I had my mask on. I that. And I don't even, you know, have the heart to be with people sometimes and say, I got it, but like, did you wear gloves? And one woman was like so adamant about the gloves. And I'm like, you probably cross-contaminated yourself with the gloves because you wore the same pair of gloves everywhere you went, touched everything in your car with those gloves. You know, all that, right? If I didn't know before, I know now, right? And so I think teachers and healthcare professionals are no different. Healthcare professionals obviously get a lot more training in the basics of infection prevention than the rest of us. But according to Dr. Knighton and her studies, and a lot of people who do similar work that she does, a lot of these infections that are spread in healthcare settings, it's the staff themselves who are acting as the vectors. You know, it's the actual personnel. So I think there's a heightened need for infection prevention awareness overall. And I do feel like it's not a gone opportunity, but it is a dwindling opportunity to really do this work in occupational settings, including schools, for all staff, all personnel in these environments. When you start to get people together in mass, and think about it, people like me have been advocating for, restrictions around indoor crowds and capacity and all these other things. Well, they didn't do that mostly with the schools. The schools opened up, and some schools were able to, sort of redesign classrooms or send them out a little bit. Many schools were not. And then we missed the mark to then do very basic things, like make sure all the windows in the classroom are functional. You know how many schools have windows that don't open? Mm. Those old sash windows that are now have been painted shut.
Yeah.
Or the sashes are broken, and it's dangerous to open them because if you open them, they could come flying back down. So that they literally will paint the windows shut. And then they have outdated air handling systems, if they even have air handling systems at all. So yeah, I think we need both. And I like when I think about what can we do with policy, training is important. But I also think the built environment mandates will be really, really important. We have something called the lead copper rule that limits the amount of lead that can be in plumbing. And that should then show up in water. And I want to be clear, there's no safe level of lead for human consumption. So it's not that. It's more of like an engineering standard than it is a public health standard. What should be the standards for schools? Should all schools have water fountains? I mean, this is something you don't think about. You know how many schools have water fountains that have a plastic bag over them?
Yeah, but I mean,
the pipes leach lead or the water is bad.
But you know what you're bringing up to. But you know what you're bringing up to me. I just have to get this in, Dr. Deb. How clean are the water fountains?
Yep, sure.
I mean, no, you're bringing all this, Dr. Deborah Furholden and Dr. Knighton. I think I'm just going to stay in my place. Just forever. I don't think I'm ever.
I can only imagine what Dr. Knighton is going to say about a public water fountain.
You brought it up. You're the one who brought it up. While you sitting up here, you were very, very silent when she was talking about these air dryers in these public restrooms. I knew you were as nervous as I was. Did I do this? Dr. Knighton, what about these public water fountains? Come on.
That's the thing. Like, I'm telling you, and I know, like, a lot of people are not scientists, but if they Google, if they even Google bacteria in public water fountains, and I'm talking about, we got to be careful about water fountains, right? Because the water fountains that are, and I'm not talking about the drinking fountains, I'm talking about water fountains. Some of them carry Legionella, which is a bad infectious disease. So it's a waterborne disease, okay? And so that's when we're talking about water fountains. If we're talking about drinking fountains, all of us have those kids that we have had to tell, get your mouth off the fountain.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine how many other parents have had to tell their kids to get their mouth off the fountain, or how many times that fountain is truly cleaned, then we would be surprised. But I wanted to bring up something that adds on to what Dr. Deb mentioned when it comes to policy that is very important.
I've got 1 minute. 1 minute.
The school systems here do it. You not only need policy and you need practice and you need guidelines, but you need to measure how well you are doing. And so that is a key component. And I can tell you, like, even with, like, let's say my kid's school, and you're right, I know it's got something to do, with me, but they literally will close down the school just to reevaluate their infection prevention practices. What is going good and what can be going better? And it's something that we call a root cause analysis. So if we had an outbreak, what could have been something that we could have prevented? Could we have prevented that outbreak? And it considers all of the stakeholders. It considers all of the resources, the environment, everything involved to say, is there something that we could have done better? So the thing is all of this stuff is being thrown out, but I don't think we're doing enough of self-evaluation as well as organizational evaluation to say, are we really doing all that we can, and are we doing it effectively?
There's a lot that we're not thinking about, everybody. And that's why we have Dr. Deborah Verholden helping us to understand this broadly, because we need to understand policy, what we need to be looking for. Medicare should not eliminate, should bring on dental and hearing and visual coverage. They shouldn't be negotiating that out. And yeah, something as basic as washing your hands in a public restroom, you need to know how to do it properly, how to dry your hands. We don't even talk about that. Whew, so much to talk about. Dr. Deborah Verholden, epidemiologist, associate dean of public health at Michigan State University, our health guru here on the Santita Jackson Show. We just love Dr. Shanita Knighton, infection preventionist. Let's talk about Rahm Emanuel. His confirmation hearing to become ambassador of Japan will be held on the 7th anniversary of the killing of Laquan McDonald. What do you think about that? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Beautiful ladies.
Yes.
Deborah, I heard you get silent. Because, girl, I got silent too. I said, wait a minute.
Y'all understand, it's hard for me. I cringe sometimes. Like,
But you know what's funny? This is why we need experts, because I was literally like, I'm leaning in, like one eye kind of closed, like, what is she about to say? Because what I think about, and now I'm just so super mindful, is about how many things we touch.
That's right. And
I think about if you just wash your hands, everything that you touch undermines potentially what you just gained by washing your hands, right? Especially because we know bathrooms are full of people who do not wash their hands. So the handle on the way out the door, the paper towel thing for the people who just sprinkled, ran their hands under the water real fast but didn't get any friction, didn't actually wash them, and all of that. So I was really curious what you were going to say. And the balance between the, cross-contamination versus other factors that I hadn't even considered before. I hadn't even thought about the dryers blowing things around and CO2 and any of that stuff.
And Dr. Deb, you just brought up something that is also a pet peeve of mine, and I'm so disturbed when I'm there. And that's the fact that, like, if they only got a dryer and it's not one of those restrooms and it's got to have a door, I gotta touch the door, I'll be so mad.
Oh, yeah. I grab.
I want my clothes touching the door, okay? Because I grab it with my clothes or something, a napkin or something. If I got one in my bag, I try whatever I can and I touch that door. And to your point, because not everybody cleans their hands correctly or at all sometimes.
Yep.
Well, now, my back has gotten a workout. Because, let me tell you something. And I have hooks. Yeah, Dr. Deb thinks I'm doing the most. Look, I'm doing the best I can.
I've seen her protocol.
And I know she knows it's crazy, and I was not showing off for you. I'm not playing. I've got like 3 or 4 different size bottles of alcohol. Yeah.
Dude, but when I tell you, she put her hands to the side, Dr. Deb, and she got her own, she got a wash sink, okay, wherever she at. And she literally sprays her hands down, you watching alcohol run off her hands onto the floor. And then after it ran for a minute, like it ran up under some water, then she rinsed it. It is absolutely, wash her, actually rub her hands. It is hilarious. I love it.
Well, you know what? I want you to know, Dr. Deb and you that's why I'm doing this. And my grandma Gertrude, who was a germaphobe. So I'm turning into her. Oh my gosh. I'm going to let you lovely ladies go unless you want to weigh in on Laquan McDonald, the 7th anniversary of his death.
Absolutely not, but I will be listening.
I love you.
Me too. I'm with her.
Sending Attorney Hoffler, Attorney Connolly, Attorney Patillo, and Wnba Key through.
Okay, thank
Good morning.
you. Hey, love ladies. CK, you got my note?
I did.
Okay, so we're going to abbreviate that. It's going to be like an update. I'm going to kind of bring you into my headlines. And then if you want to stay until the bottom of the hour to weigh in on Laquan McDonald, and I'm sure you do, so I just assumed that you would. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And so my MSNBC, which was supposed to be today, they're rescheduling.
Okay.
So it's not going to be later. It was supposed to be actually 9 o'clock this morning, Eastern Standard Time. So that's being rescheduled because they're revamping with how they're going to cover that from.
Okay, so you can stay.
But I can.
Very
but in
good.
the meantime, because it's supposed to be at 9 o'clock, but in the meantime, I'm doing court TV, And I reached back out. There were a couple of stations that reached out to me, and because I had MSNBC, it was a conflict. So I'm hoping to cover, because it's a really important trial for Georgia. Well, civil rights for everybody, for Georgia in particular.
I think it's a really it's really important for everybody, because because this guy was hunted down, right? And
he was hunted down, but he's one of the first. We have a hate crime statute here in Georgia, and of course, federal hate crime statute. So they're being charged. A lot of the ways that they're being charged, I think, are pretty novel. And there's more than one case. And there's a Justice Department case too. So I think it will be very interesting. The community is very on edge.
Well, let me tell you, people are very on edge here about Laquan Mcdonald and about this, about them voting to confirm Rahm Emanuel on the 7th anniversary of his murder. That's what it was.
Just the whole irony of this.
The whole irony. So if you can keep that to 2 minutes, because we're going to talk about Ahmaud Arbery another day this week. So because we need to, because they're now impaneling the jury, we need to look at that. But I want to.
It's going to take them a long time to pick that jury. At least 2.5 weeks. They've got 1,000 people who are submitting for voir dire.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, just so that you know, just very quickly, what I'm going to do is bring you up very quickly. Give me 2 minutes, and then I'm going to do a pivot over to Rahm Emanuel and Laquan McDonald. Who do I have? I have Dwight McKee.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're not on speaker, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I need you to come off speaker. Robert Patillo.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Aaron Connolly, Attorney Connolly.
Good morning.
Oh, she's the one who sounds great. Okay, and of course we've got Attorney C.K. Hoffler. That's how we're going to roll through this. C.K., it's 2 minutes, and we're going to go right into this. I want you all to call me at 773-763-9278. Let me know what you think about this development. You know, you can't make this stuff up. Oof.
You really can't. You really can't.
Oh, my God.
Well, you know, somebody had to be thinking about it in the cruel way, but I'd love to think that nobody was thinking about the coincidence.
I don't believe that.
It might be a coincidence, but I don't think it's a coincidence at all.
Some people are cruel, and this is cruel and nasty and mean.
10 seconds.
So stand by. It's just cruel. When you look at all the money that's behind the rehabilitation of Mary Emanuel, it's and all the corporate powers. Stand by.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Determined, unstoppable, achieving the impossible. We're standing tall with our heads held high. We are victorious.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Congratulations to the Chicago Sky, the new WNBA champions. They were seeded 6th, everybody. No one has come from that far behind to become WNBA champions. We send our love to our sisters in the WNBA. We want to thank you, Chicago Sky, for bringing the championship to Chicago, but we also want to thank the Phoenix Mercury for being such great opponents for all of these women, for showing everybody that women compete at the highest levels, that we just bring it on home. I love it. I love the Chicago Sky. So excited for them. I mean, I know my father went to the game, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Chance the Rapper, Mayor Lightfoot, who is a former basketball player, everybody, at a high level herself. Everybody went to these games. I'm so glad to see the Chicago Sky and the WNBA getting the support that they certainly deserve. Congratulations to the new WNBA champions, the Chicago Sky. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from the nation's largest, progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820 here in Chicago, and AM 950 radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. If you text me, GWC Injury Lawyers gives you that opportunity, but call me at 773-763-9278 and meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We're trying to build up our numbers there, and I want to thank you for doing that, so please do that. We're talking today about Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago. Very, very powerful figure, certainly extremely influential and powerful in Democratic politics, but really in politics overall, in power politics, and a centrist Democrat, a corporatist Democrat, all of those things. Well, he was really pretty much removed from office. He decided not to run again in just a few years ago because, in response to the drop in popularity, when people found that he and his administration covered up the killing of Laquan Mcdonald. Now, why is that important today? Because on the 7th anniversary of the murder of this teenager, the vote for his confirmation to become ambassador to Japan will be held. Talk to me about that. What do you think of that, everybody? You got to tell me something. Let's get a few of these headlines out the way because we've got the Ahmaud Arbery case, and attorney C.K. Hoffler is going to give us a little bit about that. Chicago is going to have a high of 70 degrees. It will be sunny today. Minneapolis, St. Paul, a high of 75 degrees. It is also sunny. Well, the Bears fell to the Packers. The Packers 24, the Bears 14, but the Vikings were triumphant, 34-28 over the Panthers, everybody. Oh, the Chicago sky. I'm so excited about that. I don't know what to do. Supply chain issues, according to this CNN report, have led to empty shelves, rising prices, and consumer frustration that could continue, everybody, well into next year, into 2022. That's the prediction of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and sending him and his husband love because they have just become parents of twins. All right, I love it. And he said, look, I believe in parental leave because of what he and his husband are going through with their children. Just getting adjusted. God bless them both, everybody. Now, Dr. Fauci is urging police officers to get vaccinated as union protests heat up. In the meantime, we're seeing the average caseload of COVID-19 infections that's beginning to decline. But as we heard from Dr. Deborah Holden, be very, very careful because while that is a national trend, locally, statewide, that's not happening in many, many places. So think about that, everybody. Please be careful. Please wear your masks. Please practice good oral and hand hygiene. That really helps us to bring it down to everybody. There will be condolence payments, that's right, offered to the relatives of the 10 civilians killed in the drone strike in Kabul. Just as America was leaving Afghanistan, there was a drone dropped by the American military on 10 people. Most of them were children. And so now the Pentagon said on Friday that they would issue condolence payments to the relatives of the Afghan civilians, including 7 children killed in this August drone strike. What do you think about that, everybody? Ahmaud Arbery. We have been waiting to see what was going to happen with that case. And Attorney C.K. Hoffler, you are going to be covering this for MSNBC Court TV. Everybody is calling you to get your thoughts about what's happening in this particular case. Of course, Ahmaud Arbery was out jogging, and he was hunted down by 3 white men and killed last year. And so what is going on with the case?
Good morning, Santita, and to this wonderful panel and your audience. Well, jury selection, or what we call voir dire, begins today. And more than 1,000 prospective jurors will present to the courthouse. It's going to be very interesting. It likely will take, I would say, in excess of 3 weeks. They're predicting 2.5 weeks to pick a jury because they have to pick a jury that's able to sit and listen to the evidence and follow the law. And given all of the coverage and the emotion surrounding this case, there are concerns that they'd be able to pick a jury within that time frame. Lee Merritt, who's an NBA member, is the lead attorney for his family, for Ahmaud Arbery's family. This case is so important to Georgia and to the country, indeed, because this young man was just shot down, gunned down like a dog. And it really is raw, the images and video footage that we saw. He's also, these 3 gentlemen who are being charged, the defendants are being charged by the Justice Department as well. So there are 2 cases. There are novel issues in this case. Quite frankly, this is something that's been happening for a long time in our communities throughout the country, but it's just how it was done and the video footage, I think, that makes it different. So many are watching. All eyes will be glued here in Georgia and elsewhere on voir dire, which will take some time today. And our prayers and are going out to the family, to his mother, to his father, to all the family members and the people in that community who are standing by Ahmaud Arbery's family and seeking and praying and pushing for justice.
And of course, you'll be covering that case on really on television. I mean, MSNBC, Court TV, everybody is calling to get your impressions. And you're getting your expertise, and we're so honored that we're going to have that on this show because we will be following this case because it is a case that matters a lot to people in Georgia, but it matters to people all over the country, indeed, all over the world, all of us who care about justice. This is the headline from Common Dreams. Disgusting. Rahm Emanuel confirmation vote to be held on the 7th anniversary of Laquan McDonald's murder. It just doesn't get any more simple than that. Despite outspoken opposition to his nomination, not only will there be a confirmation vote held for former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, he will also, the vote will be held on the 7th anniversary of Laquan McDonald's murder. Let that settle in, everybody. Let me go to you, Joy, from New York, because that's hit you. Joy, what's on your mind?
Hello?
Hey, Joy, what's going on today?
Good morning. It's me, Jewel.
Jewel, I'm sorry. Hey, Jewel.
Yes, I was listening, and I just want to say good morning.
Good morning.
And we have to just thank God for the present day and to get some more good days because, you know, it's very difficult nowadays, and I'm praying for the situation in Haiti, and I'm also praying for the situation with the police and the vaccine mandates because we need security and safety. That's always a top priority.
So what do you make of this, of them holding this vote for Rahm Emanuel, Mayor Rahm Emanuel's confirmation on the 7th anniversary of the killing of Laquan McDonald? What do you make of that?
I believe the family needs justice, and that should be done in a speedy fashion. You understand? When you're dealing with matters like that, it's very stressful. It takes a toll on the family and everybody that's involved and everybody that knows the family. So the quicker that they pass that and get justice to the family, the better. Because this ongoing type of hell against blacks has really got to stop.
Well, you know what? So Jewel has spoken. Jewel from New York, my girl Jewel. So I want to go to the panel and ask you what your thoughts are about this. It just seems needlessly cruel to hold the vote for the confirmation for Mary Emanuel to this. It's the crown jewel, really, one of the crown jewels of the American diplomatic corps to become ambassador to Japan, one of the great economic superpowers of this era. What do you make of that, everybody? Call me at 773-927-8778, 773-763 WCPT. You can text me there. GWC Injury Lawyers gives you the opportunity to do that. And I think that as I go to the panel, I think we've got to look at the Republicans who are on board with the nomination, with the confirmation of Rahm Emanuel. I mean, there are corporate giants who are behind him. And I have to tell you, I've always been telling you, power is not partisan. It's just power. You have corporatists, you have populists. It's just really that simple. And so you're seeing corporatists who are Republican and Democrat who are supporting him, and populists who are saying, "Are you serious?" So let's go. We've got Aaron Connolly, brilliant attorney, of course, a great political organizer, the head of her own firm. Talk to everybody about that. Of course, we've got Dwight McKee, who's got his take, a brilliant social scientist. We've got attorney C.K. Hoffler, who we just heard from about the Ahmaud Arbery case. And of course, I know if she is going to be on WAOK tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and of course on Legal Q&A with C.K. on the Santita Jackson Show on Wednesday. But let me start with you, Attorney Robert Patillo. What do you make of this? I mean, surely they could have had, many people pushing back against him being nominated to this prestigious post anyway. But for them to hold the confirmation vote on the 7th anniversary of Laquan McDonald's murder. And now, mind you, it's just out here. I just bumped into it yesterday, but it's out here. There's been no effort to change it. They're just going to go forward with this. Robert Patillo, what do you make of this?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how Rahm Emanuel keeps failing up.
It seems that no matter what he fails at, he continues to get a promotion through Democratic politics year after year. And I think it's a direct slap in the face to connect the two. And I think it's a sore reminder that police reform is not simply something being held up by Republicans on the national level, but often on the state and local level and Democratic-controlled cities and Democratic-controlled districts. You still have this recalcitrance to hold police officers accountable, and this incestuous relationship between the police unions and local politicians that makes it very difficult for Black communities to get justice. And we actually had fair negotiating partners on all sides. We could have found a way to ameliorate the number of police shootings already, but this is just a reminder of the incestuous nature of the police unions and our politicians and the need for reform at all levels.
Attorney Aaron Connolly, your thoughts? Attorney Connolly?
I think
okay.
I think the optics of this are just callous and not surprising to me, given the process that we've seen since Rahm Emanuel's name was floated for high-level cabinet positions originally. There was talk of transportation secretary, and we saw that go to Pete Buttigieg. But he is Teflon Rahm, right? He cannot be pierced, no matter what the issue is. And the sailing up aspect of it is fascinating, but it makes sense when you weave everything together, right? Rahm Emanuel was in charge of the DNC. He was President Obama's chief of staff. He has been in proximity to power. He ran the city of Chicago. And beyond that, has his hands on the levers of power throughout the world and has the ear of many powerful people, right? So my hope was that he would not be elevated in a Biden administration based on his personal connections and power connections to his previous administration, and of course probably worked with President Biden very closely as chief of staff and has those relationships. But I was hoping that in the leadership of this administration that at least there would be some recognition of the core issues facing Rahm Emanuel and the outcry, not only locally in the city of Chicago, which has been consistent, and thank you to Santita for always highlighting Laquan Mcdonald and always talking about his family and the community and the impact that case, that cover-up, that whole situation had on the community here and the national implications it has for other police departments throughout the country and how powers that be cover things up and try to prevent justice. The fact that they would do this on the same day as the anniversary of his death just shows a lack of compassion and awareness that is pretty surprising and disturbing.
I mean, it's his murder. Thank you, Common Dreams, for that headline. Disgusting. Rahm Emanuel confirmation vote to be held on the 7th anniversary of Laquan McDonald's murder. Before I go to you, Dwight McKee, have some breaking news that's very, very painful to report. Dear man, former Secretary of State and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I can't even get it out, Colin Powell, just passed away due to complications from COVID-19. That's just a lot to hear. His family posted it on Facebook, and they said, "We have lost a remarkable and loving husband, father, grandfather, and great American." And we certainly have, everybody. Someone I'd met on several occasions, met his children, met his wife, beautiful family, really a beautiful human being, and someone who was very fair. And just words fail me at this moment because it's just such a shock. He's been part of our lives and he's broken so much ground for all of us. And he's been someone upon whom we could rely, to be honest, to be earnest, to be a man of his word, to be a man of principle. And we just thank God for his life. Just shocking. COVID is real, everybody. COVID is real, and it is hitting everybody. And bless his heart, he died due to complications at Walter Reed Hospital. Whew, that's a lot to take in today. Dwight, I'm sorry, I just saw that and I just could not say that. Dwight McKee, what do you make of this Rahm Emanuel confirmation vote that is to be held on the 7th anniversary of the Laquan McDonald murder? Because indeed it was deemed a murder, right? I mean, he was murdered. He didn't just die. He was murdered. What about the 7th anniversary? And there's been no move, at least not as of yet. I can't believe someone didn't know that this was the anniversary. But there's been no kind of movement that I knew of to move this hearing, to move this vote over another day. I mean, this is just unbelievable. Dwight McKee.
Well, first, let me send my prayers out to the Colin family.
Yeah.
Colin Powell family. It's such a tragic situation. In terms of Rahm's confirmation on the anniversary, it just really confirms the notion of the fact that Black Lives Matter until the election is over. Mm-hmm. Is they caught us and they beguiled us and they beg us to vote Democratic. As soon as we do and put them in office, they spit in our faces, literally, and punch us in our bellies. It's just an insult for us to know that he was involved in the cover-up of this young man getting shot 16 times. And they reward him by giving him an ambassadorship to Japan, which is one of the more profound appointments you can have in any administration. To answer Robert's question, why is pretty simple, is because his brother, Ari, is a leading agent in Hollywood, and he controls the money that comes out of Hollywood for Democratic politics. And so Rahm's ability and his brother's ability to raise tons and tons of money is pivotal to Democratic financing and Democratic prosperity. And so he keeps failing up because it's really not about the principles, it's about the money. It's an insult, and it's been stated as such. For Black people, for him to be elected to the position or nominated for that position, when it was clear in the Black community that he was rejected as mayor for that same reason. I always say that to me, that Biden is a more sophisticated right-wing Democrat. He is not as bad as Trump, but he is the politician nevertheless. He's more politician than statesman and always play to the right.
Everybody, what do you think? What do you make of the news that Rahm Emanuel's confirmation vote will be held on the 7th anniversary of Laquan McDonald's murder? What do you make of that? CK, I've got about 90 seconds before we go to break. What do you make of that?
I think it's shameful. There's clearly a lack of compassion. I think it's callous. I think it's impossible that somebody in the United States Senate, their staff, everybody whose eyes are on this, the media, the press, did not realize that the confirmation was going to take place as scheduled on this anniversary. That in and of itself, if ever anyone needed proof positive that to some Black lives don't matter, there you have it. So I think that people need to realize that Rahm Emanuel was part of a cover-up. He kept the video of the police footage hidden from the public. That's a cover-up, knowingly. And he lost litigation surrounding that. I feel very passionate about that, and my heart goes out to the family of Laquan McDonald because, again, it's a reminder over and over and over again how little some people value Black lives. You couldn't just have it on a different day, a different week, a different time. It would have taken so little, much less, the objections that people have to him being confirmed in the first place for one of the plumbest ambassadorial assignments. But even if people just got past that because of politics, the sheer insult and offensive nature and just the oppressive nature of scheduling on that day just sort of says, y'all matter perhaps when we need y'all to matter, but you certainly don't matter on this issue. And that is stinging, and that's very difficult to swallow.
Hard to believe that no one caught this. Or maybe they did catch it, and maybe this is a sign. You got to talk to me about this, everybody. Of course, sending our love and prayers to the family of Colin Powell, the first black Secretary of State who made his transition. Indeed, he broke so much ground for all of us. And he was someone who really transcended party, everybody. Just trying to make America and the world a better place. He made his transition today, everybody. At least the release came out today. And he died from complications from coronavirus, from COVID-19. This is real, everybody. 773-763-9278, 773-763. WCPT. More of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Okay, everybody, we were on break for a couple of minutes. Isn't that shocking about Mr. Powell, about Secretary Powell?
It is.
Oh my gosh.
So shocking. Devastating. What an honorable, good, measured man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No. And
he called it like he saw it, I tell you.
He and my dad were good friends. He was always just, and it was, my father, he makes, common cause with everybody, but so did Colin Powell. He was that guy, right? He was that guy. And just on principle, he was going to be, if he was with you, he was with you. And if he was against your position, he was not against you. He was against your position. Whew, we need people like that. More and more and more. We do. It's just he's been with us so long, it's just a shock. Okay. You know what, Devin?
Yes.
Devin, can you move two of the callers down to the call-in line so we
only
can
have one call in for because I got the Wnba key on the call. I can get one of them on there.
If you can, put one of them down there. That would be great.
Sure. Who's willing to move?
Okay, whoever's at the top, just move them down so we can. Okay.
Attorney Patillo?
Attorney Patillo?
Yes, I'm here.
He needs to move you
right
down.
back, okay?
Is that okay? We need to move you down to another line so we can free up the lines. Okay.
No problem.
Okay, no, we're not letting you go. We're just moving you down to another line.
Santita, I was just hanging out listening, so I'm going to hang up.
Oh.
I was just listening. Sorry.
No. Did you want to say anything?
No, I did not. I just wanted to listen.
That's Dr. Deborah Fur Holden. Oh.
No, this is good stuff. So I will tune in on Facebook. Have a great rest of the show. Have your line back now.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Dr. Debbie.
Oh.
Hey, Dwight McKee, how you doing?
We love her. We love this girl.
Good.
Oh.
How you doing?
Let her go so we can, because we need to free up that line.
I'm doing all right. All right, bye guys.
Love you, girl.
All right, you too.
No, but we still need the line, so that's that's important. But oh, you gotta love it. Oh boy. Wow, can you believe he died? You know what? Ooh. Boy. And both my parents had it. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Whew. Oh boy. Oh boy. Whew.
All right, send Attorney Patillo through again
Okay.
in 60 seconds.
Okay. Everybody keep calling. I'm getting messages from you that you're trying to get through, but you're not able to get through. But so now we've freed up a couple more lines for you. So just continue to call. Oh boy.
Got to take this disease seriously.
Oh boy. But I think people do. It's just
so painful.
It is. It's just
watch.
It's just you just don't quite know what's what. There's just it's It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It is a whole lot.
10 seconds.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Determined, unstoppable, achieving the impossible. We're standing tall with our heads held high. We are victorious.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Had some really sad news that we've been reporting on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. And with our Morning Stars. So thank you for so many of you switching over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We need to build up those numbers, and you're helping us do that. We just found out that Colin Powell, former Secretary of State, in fact, first black Secretary of State and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has died due to complications from coronavirus. His family released a statement on Facebook, and they thanked the staff at the Walter Reed National Medical Center for their treatment. They said, "We have lost a remarkable and loving husband, father, grandfather, and a great American. No words could be truer. What a wonderful man, a man of principle. If he was with you, he was with you, no matter where you were on the political spectrum. If he opposed your position, it was just your position, not your person. He was a wonderful human being. I had the privilege of having met him on several occasions, and I just feel blessed that we were able to see his example of leadership in our lifetime. May God bless his beautiful wife and his children and his grandchildren. Indeed, you remember his son, Michael, became the head of the FCC. And so they've served, and his daughter is a magnificent actress. He just has a wonderful family. He was a wonderful man, and he will always be a wonderful example of what leadership ought to be. Colin Powell, having made his transition due to complications from coronavirus, from COVID-19. God bless him, everybody. As C.K. Hoffler, you just said, this disease is real, everybody. It is real, it is real, it is real. And he had the best health care in the world. And he succumbed to it. And I just thank Northwestern Hospital. I thank God for preserving the lives of my parents. So many people, we've lost so many people to COVID-19, so many. So let us continue on, everybody. Rahm Emanuel confirmation vote to be held on the 7th anniversary of the Laquan McDonald murder. You all are calling in. Continue to call in at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. If you want to text me at that number, GWC Injury Lawyers gives you that opportunity. CK, there's a whole lot going on here. He was convicted of murder, CK. I mean, the officer who killed Laquan McDonald. I mean, I just cannot think, just very quickly before we go to the callers, that this is some kind of mistake. This is crazy. CK. It just seems so cruel.
It's a slap in the face, to say the least. It's a slap in the face. It shows an exceptional lack of compassion. Somehow I feel that the scales of justice have tipped in the wrong direction. There's so much of a need, not just for criminal justice reform, policing reform, but political reform. Because, see, this confirmation doesn't have, evidently, those who are looking at the need for policing reform and looking at the injustice of what happened to Laquan McDonald and his family, they're not looking at that at all. They're just looking at the almighty dollar and the significance of Rahm Emanuel. And let's just put it there. It's from a very, very powerful family, a very powerful Democratic family. And so, I think the Biden administration was determined, President Biden was determined to give him a very significant appointment, and they're doing it. But the lack of compassion with something that could have been avoided is just something that speaks volumes as to some things just don't matter.
Well, and the insult to the black community.
And I think that's how people...
It's such an insult. It's an insult. And not just the black community, but first the black community. You have my back. You're not supposed to let this happen. Period. Now, this is outrageous. And everybody, you ought to have an insult level. You ought to have an insult level. This is just absurd. You're going to let his confirmation, you're going to, I mean, because wait a minute, Democrats and Republicans are supporting him. Let's be very clear on that.
Yeah.
You know, Bernie Sanders is holding, we don't know where his vote's going to go. We do know he picked up Lindsey Graham's vote, Senator Blunt's vote. He picked up Susan Collins' vote. He picked them up now. Moderates and conservatives on the Republican side. I told you it's not partisan politics. We're looking at corporatism, and it's Republican and Democrat, and they all stand together. Trust me, no matter what side of the aisle they wink and nod at you from. Whew, let me go to you, Anita from North Carolina. Anita, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita.
Hey.
Thank you for taking my call. I'm so outraged because I believe when Mayor Daley was being put out because of the cruelty to African Americans, I believe all this happened around this time. I can't remember. And, excuse me, he went to Washington, D.C. with Barack Obama, which got the liberal and the black vote, okay? He came back here and became the mayor. Why would you leave the chief of, Washington, D.C. in Washington, and then you come to Chicago? Okay, but Mayor Daley was just put out, right, for this reason. And then he gets in, right? And then he covers this up until he's elected again. All right? Now, just think. This is why I say there's something going on that's not fair, and it's not corporate and it's not government. There's some things going on in religion. Now, if that was an African-American man that had done some cover-up like that for a Jewish community after the Jewish community had put him in office in the capital of the United States of America, oh, my God, it would have been no end to that guy being hacksawed every day, all day long. But he gets away with it, and he gets glorified. He gets to get a better position and be around a whole bunch of money.
Well, you know what? I have to tell you, thank you so much, Anita, for this. I don't think, I think at the end of the day, I disagree respectfully. I think this is about corporatism. Christian, Jewish, Muslim, whatever. It's about corporate politics. I've seen it up close. I've seen the Democrats and the Republicans play it. And I've seen some populists try to pop through. But when you stand for the people, you catch the devil. You really, really do. You don't get the space. You don't get the opportunity, as Dwight said, to fail up. If you look at how he was slowly brought back into public life. He was drummed out of office here in Chicago in disgrace. But then you saw him slowly coming back. They made him a political pundit on television, on the national level, and network level. And no one ever brought Laquan Mcdonald up. Nobody ever did. Then you just saw him accruing all of these millions of dollars, as he did when he was when he basically ran the Democratic Party. And they've just kept on going. He has gone from strength to strength. Even as we look at the cover-up of this child's murder on his watch, something that he helped to direct. You got to help me with this one. Chaparral, what's on your mind? Everybody's got something to say today.
Thank you so much, Santita, for taking my call. And I wanted to say about Rahm Emanuel is that, this is what they do. They protect who they want to protect. He is a protected person in the Democratic Party. And we're seeing Biden continuously protect him by allowing him. I'm more mad at Biden for even putting up the nomination for him. We all know what he did was egregious. He covered up this murder until his election had taken place again. He knew exactly what he was doing. Everyone knew that what he did to cover up this murder. And the thing is that we as black folks, like you said earlier, have to have an insult level. So at this point, we saw that this story of this confirmation has been buried because I didn't see it anywhere. I don't think it's on anybody's radar today. But now that you have exposed it, we have to begin to call and demand that they vote no on Rahm. And so we still got a couple of hours before they do this hearing, and we need to demand that they actually vote no, because he doesn't deserve to be confirmed any damn well. And what's more egregious than Rahm being the ambassador to Japan is that Jason Van Dyke, who killed Laquan is actually scheduled to be released in February of 22. February of 22. So what they're constantly telling us is that it's okay to kill us and no one goes to jail for a long period of time. Had this been a black cop that had killed a white child, they would have given him life or the death penalty. But to get Jason Van Dyke out in less than 3 years is an atrocity for America. And I am so upset, and I'm going to call our congressmen people today. I'm going to write the senators, and I'm going to do everything I can. And I encourage everyone who's listening to put it on their board to call and tell them to vote no against Rahm.
Well, you know, because Pearl, I tell you what, because if you take this, there are more insults coming. You got to have an insult level. No other community takes this kind of treatment. No other community feels they deserve it. You got to stop feeling that you deserve for people to roll over you and insult you and spit on you.
They don't even try it with other communities. The things that they are demanding from the black community to get out here and vote, and we get nothing in return. And then you constantly, you voted down the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. You're blocking the civil rights, the John Lewis Civil Rights Act. What are we voting for Democrats for? What are they going to give us? What are we giving them our vote for?
Well, first of all, but that's one of the lessons you have to learn, Pearl. You don't give your vote. People need to earn your vote. Because what you have to do, look, you voted for them because they had some policies, stated policies, with which you agreed. Okay. But what you've got to then do, first of all, you don't give them your vote until they say they're going to deliver. Then when they get back into office, you make them deliver. Now, historically, we've had to march. We've had to go into the streets. We keep trying to do it from the streets, from TV. It doesn't work that way. Not for us. We came out of the fields anyway. Yeah, I said it. To hit these streets, call Congress 202-224-3121. That's what you got to do. You can't cute your way into freedom. And you need to have an insult level. And I'm not just speaking to black people today. I'm saying everybody ought to be insulted. They murdered this boy in the streets. And if you have any ounce of humanity, this ought to be appalling to you. And the fact that they would hold this confirmation on the anniversary of this child's murder, and he was a child. It's just unbelievable. Let me go to you, Renee. Renee, what's on your mind?
Good morning, and thanks for taking my call. Rahm Emanuel, he started out with the Daley administration, working in charge of CHA, I believe. Then they helped him go to Congress. He worked for Clinton, and he left a string of bad policies regarding black people with CHA, or poor people too, and with the welfare to work thing where they didn't give you the means to get any good jobs, but you would get kicked off after 5 years. There was an article that listed things that he did, and it said a lot of the violence in the streets of Chicago, this was from, I was saying, like 2018, could be directly linked to Rahm Emanuel's policy. He's infamously known for sticking up his middle finger and for saying FUCK, the Black Caucus, when, he was in charge, I believe, of the DNC. And he helped Blue Dog Democrats get elected and turned his back on faithful black congressmen. This man has been doing bad things for us, yet we elected him. Biden and choosing him and, him is just doing the same thing Rahm Emanuel did. He's giving black people the finger, and he's telling us, forget us. His policies show that. His Haitian policies show that. Not fighting for the George Floyd Act and for anything that he promised black people, not fighting vigorously for those things. He's showing us he doesn't care about us. So this is just the latest insult.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something,
And
Renee.
I'm not surprised.
Renee, I don't want you to care about me. I want you to respect me. I don't care how you feel about me.
Right.
I'm a grown woman, and I want to raise our children to be grown people. You don't need people to like you. What is that? You need people to respect you.
Right.
Respect.
And they don't.
You don't care about me. Oh, please.
Understand.
I don't care about someone caring about me. What I need you to do is respect me. Everything else flows from that. Dwight, before I go to the other callers.
I don't understand the Black Caucus on this. When Obama was in the White House and Rahm was his chief of staff, he literally told the Black Caucus to bug off using very, very, very vile language and refused to let them meet with Obama. And, I mean, directly insulted them and told them they don't matter to him. And now they in a position to have to confirm him or to nullify his nomination. Anybody with any dignity, any self-respect, would say, oh, okay, if that's how you want to play, I say the same thing to you. Bug off to you because you want this election. And yet they're so kowtowing to the Democratic Party that is at the expense of any self-respect that anybody at their level should have. It's really crazy that you would allow somebody to treat you that way and you not deal with them heads up.
Well, you know what, Lorraine, you said, so you're saying Biden looked at the calendar and said, let me pick this date to anger the Black community. Now, I do think Rahm should be left in disgrace due to the cover-up and receive no nomination, but the date selection, I believe, was not strategic. You know, in her opinion, I hear you, but I'm not saying that Biden picked the date. Somebody picked the date. And now that it has been brought to their attention that this is, even if they didn't know it, now that it is known that this is on the anniversary, the 7th anniversary of the murder of Laquan McDonald, it needs to be moved. But the fact is, we have been calling for him not to be nominated in the first place. How about that? It's just like the $6 trillion human infrastructure bill. Okay, the $3.5 trillion is already the compromise. That's the compromise. We don't even know what else has been cut out of it. You're going to keep on taking these insults, and you are going to be completely cut out of the game. You can't let that happen. Dwight, I need to go to Pam from the West Side. Pam, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita. I'm going to say something that is unpopular, but I'm telling the truth, and I don't care. Here's where I am. This nomination wouldn't even occur if it didn't get President Obama's blessing. So my question is, what is wrong with President Obama and all of his surrogates who won't stand up and say something? I'm talking about all of them. I'm talking about all of the Black business people who have Obama's ear. Can't you say, look, man, this is not cool? What about Representative Clyburn? You whispered into his ear to get him, Black people to vote for him. You can't say this is not cool. This is not the right thing to do. And from day one, when I heard about the nomination of this criminal, Rahm is a criminal. You don't have to go through the legal system for me to call him a criminal. I protested. I was at those Department of Justice hearings. Rahm knew about the police brutality and covered it up. So I'm saying Obama gave his blessing to this nonsense, and then Biden executed it. I'm saying, and that's me, Santita, because I don't want you to take any heat or your panelists. They don't even. That is what I feel. That is what I know. I know how politics work. I'm not an expert. I'm not an insider like you, Santita, your family, and the panelists.
No. Well, hold on, Pam. Wait a minute. Pam, wait.
Yes.
Insight. Take this in the right way. Honey, you have good sense. Okay? So it's not now, have I been privy to more of the sausage making? No question about it.
Yes.
But you know what? I'm not trying to talk over your head because I don't need to. All I try to do is give you.
And you don't.
Oh no! And you're not accusing me of that. All I try to do is give you information to help you fill in more of the blanks because you know what's up. Come on.
And lastly, let me leave you all with this. This is the first email I sent to Durbin and
who's supporting this nomination. And so is Tammy Duckworth.
Yes, and put out that insulting press release that Rahm has served the American citizens well. It must mean white America because he hasn't served black America. But here's the gist of my email that I sent to all of them. I simply said this: if Rahm had covered up the murder of an Asian youth, an Irish youth, Jewish youth, Muslim youth, any other youth, they would not have supported his nomination. And I know that to be true in my absolute, in the pit of me, my stomach, and in my heart.
Stay right there.
And so I will continue.
Well, let me ask you.
Okay. And also, I thanked Ocasio because she stood up and said something. So I did a phone call to her, and I thanked her for speaking out. And I'm going to ask senators. I guess it has to be Warren and Bernie Sanders. We have to ask them to speak out on the Senate.
You need to find out what their votes are. You need to find out what their votes are, because when I was reading the Washington Post article, that was not clear. That was not clear of what their votes are. Cori Bush and Representative Cori Bush. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Pam. Yes. Why do you take this back to President Obama? I'm curious.
Because we know that how politics work. We know that Obama was instrumental in Rahm becoming mayor of Chicago.
Oh, yeah. He made his announcement from the White House. There's no question about that.
Exactly. So Obama is privy to this. Biden wouldn't do this if there was an objection from President Obama. That would be a courtesy extended to not only, I guess, their friends, but his former boss, his former chief of staff, his former president. He wouldn't go against his wishes. And Obama couldn't say, look, man, I'm just saying if they talk like this, it's not cool. And go to Rahm and say, Rahm, you cannot continue to ask favors, call in favors, particularly as an insult to black people. You can't continue. Rahm should be ostracized. Whatever you do to criminals. They want you to report criminals on the street, but they want to reward criminals in the Democratic leadership.
Well,
if you see something, say something. Well, hell, excuse me, Santita. Well, I'm saying something. This is wrong. It is insulting. And to Lynn Sweet, who reported where nobody of his significance is saying anything, yes, we all are saying something. We can't get it in the media. We do appreciate you, Santita, for letting us get our voices out on air.
And you know what you need to do? Call 202-224-3121. Call Capitol Hill and let them know. And don't just call your representative, everybody. Pam, call Bernie Sanders' office. Call Senator Collins' office. Call Senator Warren's office. Call Raphael Warnock's office. Call Cory Booker's office. Call all of these offices and let them know how you want this vote to go down. But you also have to let the Democratic Party know that this is unacceptable. You cannot have black people be the most reliable voters in the Democratic Party. We are your base, and you cannot insult us this way.
Speaker.gov. I sent a message to Speaker.
No, but continue to do it. You have to continue to do it. This is a process. It's not a one-hit process, Pam. You have to continue to massage the system. When you see lobbyists on Capitol Hill, they are there every single day. They're sending you email. Well, back in my day, they were calling. They were holding seminars for incoming interns like myself, and on and on and on it goes. This is a process that you have to massage. I'm going to get some closing thoughts from our panel on the other side. Oh, no, stay right there, Pam. You can talk with us for a hot second. We're going to talk about 5 or 10 minutes when we get off the air here on the Santita Jackson Show. But we're going to have Jeff Cohen from Roots Action with us tomorrow to talk about this, because they have been pushing very hard on this vote. But to find out that the Rahm Emanuel confirmation vote will be held on the 7th anniversary of Laquan McDonald's murder is a special kind of insult. What do you think about it? I want you to continue to reach out to me at Santita J on Twitter, the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook, and I want you to come on over to YouTube and talk to me and my panel for just a few more minutes. We're going to continue to cover this tomorrow because it's a special kind of insult. And you've got to have an insult level. If you continue to let people insult you, they will never stop. They'll never stop. And you've got to know that you don't deserve to be mistreated, to be ill-treated, to be disrespected. They don't care about us. Take that out of your political vocabulary. You need to have people respect you, and then they'll protect you. Then they won't neglect you. I think I heard someone say that before. First, they need to respect you. This is not a date, it's a destination. This is not about kissing up to somebody. This is about being respected. This is about getting your share of the resources that everybody else has access to. And everybody else gets more than their fair share except us. You need to push hard. Stop saying they don't care about us. Nobody else gets on the radio and in the political conversation talking about whether someone cares about you or not. I don't care whether you care about me. All I want you to do is respect me. After that, you can go on about your business, and I will go on about mine. Santita Jackson here on the Santita Jackson Show. See you tomorrow, Lord willing. Woo, as we talk about Rahm Emanuel confirmation vote to be held on the 7th anniversary of Laquan McDonald's murder. What do you think of that? Meet me over on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show page. Love you, everybody. Okay. Dwight, you wanted to say something? Ugh.
Yeah, I was simply going to say Biden may not have picked the date, but he did pick the candidate. And that's what's insulting. The fact that he's even a candidate is insulting.
Oh, D-Ray, you're saying you wish... I'm sorry. Go on, Robert.
I was just going to say, realistically, he should have never been up for the position in the first place. So whether they confirmed him on this day or on Christmas Day or any other day, as it just shows the lack of respect. There's not a black person in Chicago that could have picked to go to Japan. I would have went. It's ridiculous.
Well, but see, this is the thing. Robert, it's so funny. This is the thing, though. This is the thing that everybody. It's bad enough that it happened. But it's the insult to injury that it's going to happen on that date. That's the insult to injury. And that is, again, if ever anyone needed any type of evidence or proof that for many, Black lives simply don't matter. They matter for a period of time when it comes, to when it's necessary for them to matter. But for some people, they really don't matter. And criminal justice reform is not a priority. And all of the things that we're talking about, if ever you need a proof positive, this is it. Because business is continuing. And when, I can't remember which speaker was going through a litany of, I think it was one of the callers, of insults that the Black community had sustained recently, they forgot to mention the whipping of the Haitian refugees, of the cowboys whipping Haitian refugees. That should have been added to the litany. So I think that, again, every other community does take their destiny in their own hands. And when there are things that perturb them, disturb them, are offensive, are disgraceful, are disgusting, there are protests and everything that happen. And I think that we just need to take the destiny into our own hands. I'm not trying to incite anything. I'm just saying that we've seen this picture before. We've been in this movie before. We've been the starring actors in the movie before. So we have to continue to fight. And for those that feel that the fight, there's no need for a fight, well, this is proof positive that there is a need for the fight. And there is a correlation between criminal justice reform, policing reform, what's happening to Haitian refugees, and other things that are front to the Black community, what's happening in the infrastructure debate and where the money's going and what it's going to be for. There's a correlation between that and what matters for our community, or what doesn't matter. So I think we have to look at all of that and just push. This is politics, whether it's the Republican Party or Democratic Party. It's politics. So I just think we have to really understand that and continue to yield the power that we have with our vote.
It's politics and it's power. Power protects itself always. And that's why I want us to be very specific, CK and Aaron and Robert and Dwight, about corporatists who are both Democrats and Republicans. And they're libertarians too. They protect corporations, not you. Period. Just We just need to be right there on that whole piece. And that's what this is, because if you look at how he has been able, Aaron, think about it. He was trounced out. He was trounced out of office. Who remembers where they were the day that you found that he was not going to run for re-election? Because heaven knows he tried.
I remember.
But his numbers were so bad, Aaron. You remember?
Yep.
His numbers were so bad. He
And
had to say, "I'm not going to do it, Aaron." And then you saw him be rehabilitated back into public life.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to talk over you, but I want you to respond.
No.
You saw him slowly get pulled back in, because they have a plan. You know, while my brother's walking around here an ex-felon, okay, with all of his genius. I mean, really? And you covered up a murder? No, honey. I'm salty about that. Huh?
Started before that cover-up, right? That was calculated. This whole bringing him back into the public eye is calculated. He's from a powerful family. He is, I hate to say this, but he is a brilliant strategist, right? And going up against that is tough for anyone. I think a lot of people have been on the wrong end of Rahm Emanuel, and we'll see some interesting votes for his confirmation based on the power that he has behind the scenes with regards to donor money coming into your district, other corporate influences in certain districts as well. So that will be interesting to watch. But I think it's important to note, as from an optics perspective, from Rahm Emanuel's side, they know that this is the day that Laquan McDonald was murdered. Okay, they've been trying to cover it up for years. His inside people, he himself, knows the significance of this day. That's not something you forget if you're someone as smart as Rahm Emanuel. So my bigger concern is that this is a calculated move in a way that shows that he is beyond it and signals to the public that they shouldn't come for him. That is kind of my bigger concern with regard to his position in the world, right? Like,
so you see this as a politically
huge responsibility.
You see this as a political gangster move.
I mean, he is. That's a gangster move. The type of stuff he pulls, and if I was his comms team, I would say, let's get as far away from this date as possible, right? They're aware of this. There's no way that this is an oversight. Even if it's a Senate schedule thing, even if there's other considerations with regard to the president's schedule, they don't want to bring attention to this unless, they want to. That would be my inside analysis, I think. And that's troubling. That's really troubling.
Santi, if I could just say, I agree with Erin 100% on what she's saying about this, but this deal was cut and done a long time ago. We are simply the ones who are hearing about it front center now, when there's little to no time to undo or unravel or make it different. So I just think that we have to just keep our eye on the prize and recognize that the greatest power that we have is the power of vote. The greatest power that we have is the power to hold those elected officials that we put into office responsible. That's the greatest power, because this deal was cut. All of the iterations, intricacies of it, a long time ago. It's just very unfortunate that we are hearing about it now at a moment when the deal is done, the dirty deed is done. And there's little to nothing that can be done about it. Yes, protesting. Yes, because you never know until it's over. But the manner in which it was done, I think it was staged and planned for a very long time. And this is just something that was an oversight of those strategists. It was either a gross oversight or it was a grossly intentional act designed to say blankety, 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 blank to the blankety blank of the blankety blank in the Chicago community and in this country to African Americans. It's either one or the other.
Oh, I mean, something's got to happen. Robert Patillo.
The blankety blank of the blankety blank.
Girl, please. You know what? People say, go straight to the devil. And this is just absolutely, just the insult is just so profound. Robert Patillo, I know we're going to be going shortly. Your thoughts?
Well, I think what we have to do is, What we have to do is start putting more pressure on this administration. If Joe Manchin and Christian Sinema were just two people seem to be able to get their way in Washington, well, then the millions of black folks that were really the difference in the election should be able to stand firm on these things and get our way. How is it that two people got more power than millions and millions of black and brown and progressive people around the country when it comes to policy and cabinet positions? And frankly, black folks should stand up and say that this is not acceptable, and the administration should withdraw it. I find it to be disgusting that they would even think it to be appropriate than to do it on this day.
Absolutely, absolutely. CK, do you have anything else you want to add? I think CK might have had to go on. Aaron, anything else you want to add before I ask Dwight to close us out?
I just want to
come on, political gangster.
Pray for the family of Laquan Mcdonald. Like, honestly, I think that this is, having them suffer through this is cruel, and I think we all can do our part to support our local community that has suffered through some of these policies and pivot back to that. Unfortunately, I'm not confident that there's going to be a no vote on this.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have brought it otherwise, right? This, as CK said, this has been decided a long time ago. So we can do our part to make sure that we're holding our local officials accountable here, and that people don't forget about it. I think that's important. We still need to make sure that people don't forget about it.
Dwight McKee, your final thoughts.
The only way to hold your local officials accountable is to make them former officials. Is that we had a chance to put Bernie in office, and we listened to Clyburn and told us, no, Joe is the guy, even though we knew his history, that he's a right-wing politician. We know how he did busing. We know his position on the criminal justice system. We know his position on Anita Hill. He's been very consistent. And so he really is sending a signal. It's not an either or. He's sending a signal that black lives don't matter. It's part of them choosing this day is so that we can understand it and to minimize the violence of the action. To say it really wasn't that deep. It really ain't that bad. We need to kind of move on past this because politics is go on. We have the chance to put Bernie and the more progressive part of the Democratic Party in play. This our decision, is our determination. The next time around, we'll see the Biden. You had your chance. We need to be doing more progressive politics. You didn't fight for us. We won't vote for you. We won't fight for you. It's our decision, you all. It's our choice. We have to vote our interest and not the interest of those who induce us to vote for people who they relate to, but will operate against our interests.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. Got to have an insult level, everybody. You must. Politics is not a parlor game. It really isn't. It's about power, and it's about the allocation of resources. Stop saying, just remove from your political vocabulary, they don't care about us. I don't care about someone caring about you. Please, this is about politics. Caring, the case could be made that Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings cared about each other. But guess what? He didn't free not near one of their children. Not even her. Okay? Until death. A couple of them got away, but for real? I mean, you got to have an insult level. This is politics. This is about power, period. Period. Whether someone cares about you or not is immaterial. In power, that is not what it's about. In power, it's about what people will do for you. It's about the promises made and promises kept. And you have to make sure that someone makes a promise to you and they keep it. When we gave our votes to Biden. I was a Sanders supporter, period. Still am. You gave your votes away. Okay. You shouldn't have done that because I know him. He cares for us. That's not enough for me. I want you to talk to me about busing and how your position may or may not have changed since the 70s. I want you to explain Anita Hill. Anita Hill said, no, he didn't give me an adequate apology, but I'll keep on going with it. You need to have people explain their positions to you and then explain what they're going to do for you beyond having your back. Remove that conversation out of your political vocabulary, too. This is all sounding very social, and this is about politics, honey. This is about you getting a Build Back Better bill. It's about you getting 2 free years of community college. That's what it's about. And you know what? And more and more and more and more, much more than that. It's about Laquan McDonald's soul resting peacefully on the other side. This child was murdered in the street. And to protect the mayoral office, his murder was covered up. When we found that out, we turned Chicago out. And we got him out of office. But he, because of his corporatist politics, has been rehabilitated back into respectability. It doesn't happen for everybody. It doesn't happen for populists, it happens for corporatists. That's the reality. You ought to be insulted by this. You ought to be insulted that all the people, if they lift up and tell you, all the people they lift up and who they tell you that they're wonderful people, are all the people who are anti-you, who want to deny you college, who want to deny you getting your teeth done, your hearing checked, and your vision checked for Medicare. These are the people who are saying that you really want too much. Are you for real? And now this boy has been killed, and you have his vote on the anniversary of his murder? You are insulted by that. If you're not insulted by that, shame on you. And I don't know how they're going to insult you next. Yeah, Jewel, no joke. You know what I mean? When is it? What insult is coming next? Because it can't get worse than this. And when I tried to Google this morning, Dwight and Aaron and Robert, I couldn't find this is Mcdonald's anniversary anywhere. I only found it on Common Dreams. And I'm going to follow the example of fairness and accuracy in reporting. I'm not going to call them the mainstream media anymore. New York Times, Sun Times, and all that. No. They're corporate media. They protect corporatism and corporations. I don't have a problem with corporations. I just have a problem with greed. So think about that, everybody. Think about it and call Tammy Duckworth and Dick Durbin if you're in Illinois. But you know what? Call 202-224-3121 and call any representative you can, any senator, and tell them this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. You let them know. But if it's acceptable to you, okay. But then don't call me about the next insult that's coming. Trust. Because it's coming. I don't know what's going to next. But remove from your political vocabulary. They don't care. They care about us. If he doesn't care, he cares about me. Forget that. You better get on over that. You don't need someone to care for you. You need someone to come for you, not comfort you. They need to give you your resources so you can go on about your business and build your own home and build your own communities. That's what you need to do. Stop being needy. Being needy is never a good look. Needy makes you greedy, and you always lose. You need to have needs, and they need to be met. When you're needy, they're never met, and people just mess all over you. And that's what's happening here. Because we're needy to be liked. We're needy to, you need to care for me. I think you understand my pain. Forget that. I need you to give me my money. That's what I need you to do. I need you to allocate these resources fairly. I need you to open up wide the gates of opportunity. That's what I need you to do. How you feel about me? Colin Powell said this. He said, my race is not my problem. That's your problem. Okay? Oh, yeah. Stop it. You ought to be insulted by this. Everybody ought to be insulted by this, whatever your background, whatever your color. Let's forget about color. What is your kind? Does this insult you? It ought to. Love you, everybody. See you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Lord willing. Love you.